In September 2011, a conference on gentle teaching was held in Troy, Michigan, hosted by the Macomb Oakland Regional Center. Despite the difficult economy, the conference was packed with people from all over the world, eager to share their successes with this philosophy of care that seems to seamlessly fit all cultures. So, how did gentle teaching come about?
I had lived in Brazil for a long time and worked with street children and prostitutes. I actually didn't do much of anything there. And without realizing it, I learned a lot. But I didn't realize it for several years, what I had learned. Like I remembered one time we were going down a river to a little village called Salinas. And there was a storm, and the boat was bouncing up and down. And we pulled up to the side of the river, and there were 4 or 5 shacks up above. And the people from the houses came running down. And I thought they would be nice and maybe give us a blanket to sleep on the river's edge, and maybe a little food. And they said, no, you come to our house, a little mud shack. They slept on the riverside, and they gave us all of their food. The kindness, really, of what some people call the wretched of the earth. They would give you anything. They were very linked up as human beings, interdependent, whereas all these programs in our country are based on independence.
Floris van de Kamper is a social worker from the Netherlands who has used the gentle teaching method with great success while working with Ronald, a man with autism.
I was really touched by the story about gentle teaching, and because it was very close to my own vision about how to take care of people or clients or sister, brother, or anyway, etc. And then 3 years later, I went to another organization where I work now, and at the group home where I was going to work, John McGee was there 3 years before, and he was there working with Ronald, and so I started there working together with Ronald, and it was very nice to see the video of John McGee and Ronald, and I had to start making a good relationship with Ronald. So that's when I was starting with gentle teaching over there, yes. That learned me so much that the relationship is the most important thing in my daily job, and not the rest of it. But the focus is always the relationship. The client needs to be feeling safe and loved by me, and not by structure or structuring the day, whatever. Because I knew when I started working with Ronald, I knew that he wouldn't feel safe with me at all, because he didn't know me. So I knew that if I'm starting to building a relationship with him, I knew he would be very unsafe with me, and he expressed that in violence, extreme violence, smashing my head, grabbing my hair, and etc., etc. And if I could make a choice, or I could structure him in his daily program, or I could make a decision working in the relationship with me, with him and me. And I choose the second one because I knew that he must feel safe with me, as a child must feel safe with his mother or father. And it was a pretty weird thing for my colleagues, because they were a little bit afraid for what was I doing, because they told me you have to get the day program, and you have to follow the day program, because the day program is giving Ronald the feeling of safe. And I thought, no, it's not.
Despite the opposition of his colleagues, Floris persisted in his quest to make the relationship between he and Ronald more important than following the structured program that the staff currently relied on to manage Ronald's behavior, which he felt actually escalated some of Ronald's violent outbursts.
And I was thinking, that is the reason why he's challenging me at that moment is not, you can interpret that is if I'm following the program, but I was thinking he wants to feel safe by me. So I came over him at 2:10, and he was just eating all his feet, and I was just standing there, and I said, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait a minute, Ronald! Put your plate on the table." And he was looking like, "What do you say?" I said, "Put your plate on the table." And finally, he put his plate on the table, and I was sitting on his bed, and I said to Ronald, "Now you're gonna finish your meal, and within 20 minutes we go to get a cup of coffee because at 2:30 I have to my meeting with my colleagues." And he was just looking with his very big eyes like, "This is not normal because you have to take my food and we have to fight, we have to struggle, and you have to fix me on the ground and you have to call your colleagues so you can bring me with 3 or 4 other colleagues to the seclusion room." But I didn't do that. And that was a very important difference in the way my old colleagues wanted me to work. They were totally focused on the program and totally focused on the structure. And structure is very important because, but it needs to be a tool to work towards a relationship, and it must not be the goal by itself.
Jerry Provençal, the CEO of the Macomb Oakland Regional Center, is a big believer in gentle teaching.
There are a number of people who have been working in different parts of the world after following John McGee, a very eminent psychologist who works with people with disabilities, on what we call and what he's called gentle teaching. It's really very simple at its core. It's working with people kind of the way our grandparents worked with us. You know, they're much more forgiving than our parents quite often, more accepting of bratty behavior. And in our case, with our population, there's been a tendency over many, many years to kind of control people who have disabilities and make sure they don't get into mischief, into trouble, hurt themselves. And so we'll have very often we'll see long records of people who have been kept in single rooms where they didn't have a lot of room to roam because they might get out, get hurt somebody else. And over decades, really, there's been this movement towards confining people with disabilities, really out of kindness. So you see institutions, large institutions, moved away great distances from the center of towns. So they have a campus they can roam around, not have to worry about going out into the street, not worry about kids teasing them because of their difference. It really became quite extreme, but not intentionally to hurt folks. But we've seen that it's really suppressed learning for them because they haven't had a chance to interact with people who aren't intellectually disabled. So gentle teaching really is the reintroduction, of education and the roles that we have as teachers, mentors, people who guide, and counsel, nurture. And it's rather simple, but deceptively simple, really, the concept.
So how many countries were represented at this conference celebrating the deceptively simple concept of gentle teaching?
I'm noted for being very disorganized, and I'm sort of proud of that. I've counted 26 countries, but I know there's more than that.
Indeed, this simple concept of interdependence, unconditional love that is rooted in kindness, that is gentle teaching, is revolutionizing care for people with disabilities. Our thanks to John McGee and Jerry Provençal for being such great ambassadors of gentle teaching and for giving the world a tool to build relationships and understanding.